Double game week 25 is here, and in today's team selection video I'm going to talk about the strategy and some of the players I could potentially bring in for the double game week. So let's waste no time and get stuck into today's team selection video. It feels like it's been forever since I last sat in front of a camera and recorded an FPL video. Game week 24 just felt like it went on for absolutely ages, but we're here now for another double game week 25. This time it's Liverpool and Aston Villa who have the double game week. Of course, I always like to mention I am on the road to 1,000 subs before the FPL season ends, so if you're new around here and you aren't yet subscribed, please do consider it for future FPL videos and deadline streams. And of course, if you do enjoy today's video, make sure you hit that like button as well. We always start with the defence and work our way through the team up until the forwards, and we finish off the video with a little bit of a transfer plan section, so stay tuned and watch the whole video for that section of the video. But we're going to get into the defence here, and for me, this defence is actually really great for double game week 25. We'll start with the Arsenal boys. I always seem to start with the Arsenal boys in my team selection videos. Maybe I transfer them out in a few weeks' time, but at least for the next 2 weeks, the Arsenal defence looks really good with the fixtures they got. I believe it's Leicester and West Ham they have back-to-back. So, yeah, the fixtures look great for the Arsenal boys. Hopefully, obviously, with Saliba definitely back in that side, looking a little bit more solid defensively. Sadly, not as many clean sheets as we hoped, but maybe in these two better fixtures, we can get some clean sheet points coming through for them, and perhaps holding them becomes worth the time. But yeah, happy to have them in the squad. We'll go straight to Liverpool here because Trent's sitting there coming on in the Everton game in the second half. Of course, didn't start the game. No attacking returns, no defensive returns. It wasn't a great feeling to see him start on the bench, but at least we know he's able to play for Liverpool now. So I am more inclined to keep a hold of him. But if it's a doubt that he doesn't start against Wolves and possibly could miss out Wolves and maybe start against Villa, I think I could move him towards someone else who has a double game week, whether that's an Aston Villa defender or another Liverpool defender. It doesn't really matter because they do both blank in game week 29. But at least we had a positive sign that he is at least able to come on the pitch like he did against Everton. With Kirkez, the Southampton away fixture. Now, I've held Kirkez for weeks and weeks. He's came on here and there and done really well for me. So hopefully with this amazing fixture, an amazing fixture run coming up, Kirkez can continue being a great asset for my squad. Of course, you can see Mikalenko and Vandenberg on the bench there, both with actually decent fixtures, but none of them deserve a start over the boys I've got in that back three at the moment. But yeah, that is the defence. Let's move up now to the midfielders. Now, after Salah's dominant performance in game week 24, it's an absolute no-brainer to captain him this game week. I suppose you could argue you could go for a bit of a differential play, go for a Morgan Rogers, go for a Trent, go for an Ollie Watkins, but I think we all know in reality that Salah's most likely going to be the highest scoring player in FPL yet again, so he obviously gets the captaincy armband. I don't want to speak too much about him because everybody knows how good Mohamed Salah has been this season. We'll move along through the midfield and go to Bryan Mbeumo next. His fixtures coming up are really nice. Of course, West Ham away from home can be tricky at times, but I do have faith in that Brentford team, and especially Bryan Mbeumo being on penalties and getting most likely 90 minutes yet again in that Brentford side. Ismaila Sarr is probably the first person on my transfer list. It's been a little bit of a disappointing move on my behalf, but the move that happened for Ismaila Sarr to come into my team actually enabled me to get Isak all those weeks ago. So it's not all doom and gloom, but still, I think Ismaila Sarr's time in my FPL team is probably coming to an end this week. And who else really do you bring in apart from a Bournemouth midfielder? You have Semenyo, Utara, and of course Justin Kluivert. All three of those options are really good, and in the transfer section at the end of the video I will discuss my favourite one who I'm most likely to bring in this game week. Cole Palmer, another one that's been slightly disappointing, but I think it's more so Chelsea are disappointing rather than Cole Palmer. Yes, his numbers haven't been exactly amazing, but with Chelsea just not firing on all cylinders across the entire pitch, Palmer's got a lot to work to do to get those attacking returns for his team. So yeah, there's no plan to get rid of Palmer. He's got Southampton and Leicester coming up very soon in a few game weeks, so there's absolutely no reason I should be transferring out Cole Palmer in FPL. Morgan Rogers, the first Aston Villa player in the team, and to be honest, I will mention this now, he is the last Aston Villa player in my team. We'll discuss the possibility of getting rid of Isak to go into Watkins in the next section, the forward section of the video, but Morgan Rogers, the last 3 weeks, he's only scored 1 point in each of those game weeks. The yellow card and the appearance points, it's just not enough, but the double game week against Ipswich and Liverpool, hopefully he comes away with something out of those two fixtures, and I do believe he will. I'm just not sure it'll be a mega haul, but hopefully he can prove me wrong on that front. But yes, that is the midfielder section of the video. Let's move up now to the forwards. Now, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but João Pedro is actually going to start for me this game week. This guy is... I want rid of him. I really want to get rid of him because he just hasn't been performing. Brighton have been really hit or miss. He's just not a great asset to own in FPL at the moment, in my opinion. But, next week he has Southampton. With everyone selling him, maybe it's a chance I can play a bit of an ownership card and just keep him for that Southampton match and then perhaps move him on. It's really difficult to keep a hold of João Pedro. It really is. And that's the only thing that's telling me to keep a hold of him. Of course, he does start this week because of Ndai's injury he faced last night, which was another massive disappointment for game week 24. I thought we would play the majority of the game, but injuries happen in the game. Of course, we've seen Trent get his injury as well. These things happen. They do derail game weeks and cause you red arrows, but you just have to react to that information and move on. So João Pedro does probably start for me against Chelsea at home. Maybe there's some news about Ndai, if he's ready to go and fit and available. I just really can't see it. So João Pedro does start for me this game week, but he is on my transfer watch list. I have to be honest about that. Isak is a really interesting one because we have now the option and ability to move him on through the difficult fixtures to go to a double game week playing Ollie Watkins. Now, I'm only going to do that move. Well, I say I'm only going to do that move. This move is something that I really don't know if I'm going to be able to do. I think Isak's such a great player in FPL and in real life. He's just relentless. He does so much for Newcastle. It's just the fixtures coming up aren't great. But the fixtures coming up for Aston Villa aren't great. It's just they have that double game week and that Ipswich fixture this week over Newcastle's, obviously, Man City away fixture. So there is a chance that Isak gets moved to Watkins to get the double game week. But after that, do I see Watkins massively outscoring Isak? Not particularly. So it's really difficult to have a good opinion on that move because I think it's really 50-50. I really don't know what's going to happen with that move. But Ollie Watkins is a slight injury doubt, so perhaps his minutes aren't fantastic. Donde Marlon, Asensio, Rashford all could get a sniff in that Villa team and perhaps make some minutes change around here and there. And particularly the case could be that Watkins has, well, not 90 minutes, where Isak probably will. So that's where I stand on that move at the moment. But it is definitely within my consideration because at the end of the day, a double game week player does have a better chance of outscoring a single game week player. Of course, City doesn't help their Watkins argument because City just are crap at the moment. Defensively, just simply rubbish. They can't deal with any sort of pressure, and it's really worrying for the Premier League champions. But yeah, that is how I'm lined up for double game week 25 in FPL. We're going to now move to the transfer plan section of the video where I show you my plans for the next few weeks of FPL. Now, I did mention within the team selection part of the video that Arne Slot is still my assistant manager, and I don't think there's much need to transfer him out to go to a different manager, because if I did do that, it would only be to Unai Emery. Yes, there is a potential that he could outscore Arne Slot this game week, and we can kind of understand this by, Aston Villa having that table bonus chance against Liverpool in that home fixture. I don't think it's a bad shout if you're on a David Moyes assistant manager right now. Congratulations if you are. Of course, getting a draw against Liverpool is really massive for that David Moyes pick. But for me, I think Arne Slot I can just keep a hold of, especially with the fact I am navigating game week 29, the blank game week, with no free hit chip, as I've already used it this FPL season. In hindsight, I maybe should have kept that chip. I was really chasing some big upside for game week 12, but yes, I came off as a green arrow that week, but maybe it was worth just keeping a hold of it towards the end of the season. But we have to react to what I have now, and what I have now is free transfers. And I think Ismail Assar is the first player that I would transfer out in my FPL team. Of course, João Pedro is within that conversation as well. As I mentioned, we really like the look of Bournemouth midfielders, and there's really three you can pick from. Of course, you can go for other ones, but these three are the guys who are powering forward for Bournemouth and scoring goals, assisting goals, and getting them up the pitch. It's Kluivert, Semenyo, and Dango Otara. For me, I think the best value player, the best value pick you can consider in FPL right now is Dango Otara. I think he, out of the three Bournemouth midfielders, excites me the most. He's playing out of position in FPL terms. He's not a midfielder. He plays as a forward for Bournemouth, so already that's an attractive move to make. He's much cheaper than the other two assets. Of course, Kluivert is 5.9 million. Dango is only 5.1. You could argue the fact I do already have a lot of money in the bank, but I want to be able to have the flexibility to upgrade my team to whoever I want at any given point. I think the team I have now is a decent team. The other person in my team that I don't particularly like the look of is João Pedro. But when I make this transfer from Ismail Assar to Dango Otara, if I was to get rid of João Pedro or Iliman Ndiaye, let's say I get rid of Ndiaye, because I would like to keep a hold of João Pedro for that Southampton away fixture. For 7.7 million, who would I really go for apart from Wissa, Mateta, and potentially Cunha if I could bench him and just play him from 27 onwards? So maybe that's not a transfer I desperately need to make this week, but it is something I could consider definitely, especially if Ndiaye is out for a long time. And of course, if I'm just sick of João Pedro, I could get rid of him, but I don't think it's a necessary move when you consider the Southampton away fixture. We look at the other fixtures past that, they're not fantastic, so it's probably the case I do get rid of them in game week 27 anyway. But for game week 25, that's kind of the transfer plans I would make. One free transfer used. Going into 26, again, that Southampton away fixture for João Pedro does look really nice on paper. I think this is probably the game week I would look to get rid of Morgan Rogers. Now, I do like the look of Amad Diallo from this week onwards as well. We can kind of understand why I like that move, because, you know, you've got Everton, you've got Ipswich, Arsenal not great, but you do have Leicester away in game week 29. Of course, if that's a blank game week and he does play, I do like the look of that move. So yeah, another week where I just use one free transfer. I think in this week in particular, you could understand getting rid of Arne Slot and going into a different manager. I suppose we have to consider maybe going for a table bonus manager in this particular week. It really depends how the Premier League table's looking in that given game week. It's hard to really put a finger on a specific manager who I could go for. Maybe David Moyes against Man United, although that does contradict my Amad Diallo pick. It's hard to say at this point of recording and this point of the season, but at least for the next 2 weeks, that's what I'm kind of considering in terms of my move. Dango Otara, one of my favourite Bournemouth midfielders. I think a very close second. It's difficult to say, but I would probably go Kluivert just because of the penalties. But I absolutely love Semenyo as an FPL asset. They're all really, really close for me as, you know, transfers in. I think the value and slight differential aspect to Dango Otara is really attractive for me as a manager. I will give a small shout out really quickly to Namweri. Where is he at? So with Arsenal's current injury problems, it's more than likely that Nwaneri is going to have some part of the squad going into the next few game weeks. It could be a slight issue because I know Bukayo Saka is on his way back potentially and could be back for that Chelsea fixture. Are you really going to be wanting to play Nwaneri against Forest? You could probably play him against United, but I think at least for Leicester and West Ham, he's definitely a player you could consider. Very low ownership, very low price point, but for me, I'm not sure really where he fits in my team, apart from taking Dango Ouattara's place. I just think it's a better fixture and possibility more points coming from Dango Ouattara than a Nwaneri. But yeah, that's kind of my transfer plans for the next few weeks of FPL. So hopefully you enjoyed today's video. Thank you very much for watching. Now, I always like to end my videos with a massive thank you to you guys at home for supporting the FPL Mugs YouTube channel. Of course, if you have enjoyed today's video, make sure you drop a like. And if you aren't yet subscribed, please do consider it for future FPL videos and deadline streams. Of course, I will be doing a deadline stream tomorrow, 2 hours before the FPL deadline. But that is absolutely everything for today's video. Thank you again so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye for now.